Hi, and welcome back. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk with Apaton Media, your guest host from Assay TV, right here at One-to-One Mining Investment Event in Cape Town. I'm joined today by Luke Alexander, the President, CEO, and Director of Newcore Gold. It's so great to have you here. Seriously, I mean, this is such a phenomenal event, such a phenomenal show. I'm so glad the rain stopped. How's the show been for you?
Yeah, it's been great so far. It's been very busy, and I think all the conferences we've been to this year have been extremely busy, which you'd obviously expect with commodity prices.
Absolutely.
In a number of cases hitting new all-time highs, including obviously the gold price trading around $5,000. So far it's been a great conference.
It's been a great year, for sure. Now, Luke, gold narratives, as you know, come and go. What do you think investors should be paying closer attention to while evaluating gold companies today?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. Obviously, we're at an all-time high in terms of the gold price. And what we're seeing today is a lot of companies that are kind of reinvigorating themselves, projects that have been around for a long time that all of a sudden are reappearing in the market. I think one of the important things for investors to focus on is projects that have been actively moving those projects forward over the last number of years. And at Newcore, we're a great example of that. In the downtimes, we continued to aggressively push our project forward. We completed a lot of drilling, met work, all of those key elements to advance a project so that today, as we hit $5,000 gold price, we're in a position to take our project to a PFS. We're 3 years away from production. All of those things can be major catalysts, whereas a lot of the companies that are coming back to the market, now that there's appetite from investors, those are projects that still need to really go through that stage of exploration before they, progress enough to that point. So those would be a couple of the things I would look at when I'm as an investor.
Absolutely. Now, that perspective becomes very important when there's this type of environment. So as you advance Newcore, what are the milestones that you believe will most clearly demonstrate progress to the market?
So there's a couple of key things. So our Enchi project in Ghana, there's a fundamental underpinning of value within the project. So we put out a PEA, a preliminary economic assessment in 2024. Since then, we've done a huge amount of drilling. Over 30,000 meters of drilling is feeding our PFS, which we're looking to get out in the first half of this year, June of this year. We've then done a lot of additional met work, geotech, hydrological work. All of that de-risks the project and then ultimately commands a higher multiple from the market and what we expect will be a major re-rate for the company between now and June. But then on top of that, we have true district scale exploration, which we're aggressively pursuing. So we've got a 45,000 meter drill program underway. The last 15,000 meters of that drilling is focused on some of the very high grade structures that we've identified across our project. And if you look at some of the results that we've put out so far in 2026, we've had very strong high grade results, which ultimately supports our overall geological thesis that as we start to drill a little bit deeper down to kind of 200 to 300 meters on our project and we focus in on these high grade structures, there's an opportunity for us to create outsized returns for shareholders. So that fundamental re-rate from now to PFS in June, and then on top of that, true district scale exploration. So that optionality is something that we're very excited about as a management team, board, and shareholders to ultimately execute on in the first 6 months of this year. And then beyond that, we see a number of catalysts from a drilling perspective, as well as starting to look beyond the PFS towards a full feasibility study.
That's great. Now, we all know that with that, there does absolutely come some challenges. So what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now, and how are you navigating through that?
I mean, one of the things, and we've been talking about this for a number of months now, is inevitably once you get into a market like we're seeing today, where there's an abundance of capital available for companies, that will lead to strain on the service providers. So whether that's drill rig availability, assay lab availability, the various consultants who put together the studies that then are used for companies to advance their projects. So I think that's one of the things that we're going to see is strain on the overall sector from a service availability perspective. One of the things we're fortunate at Newcore is that in Ghana, we've got a tremendous amount of service companies. It is Africa's largest gold producer. And also, again, back to one of my earlier points, we've been aggressively moving the project forward in the downtimes, so we already have all of those established relationships with the different service providers, which again now flows through to being able to continue to work with those groups to continue to push our project forward. But I think industry as a whole, we're going to start to see a lot of strain. We're going to see delays in assay times, rig availability, all of those things that in a market like we're seeing today ultimately come out.
So tell me about the community that you work in then. As we know, mining is so rich here, and it is so needed for the economy here and for the people here. Tell me how you're working with the community to make it better, to give them a bigger perspective on hope or on anything for them.
So if we look at, again, Ghana, which is where our project is, it's Africa's largest gold producer. It's the 6th largest gold producer globally. So within the country, there's a huge amount of skilled labor for us to ultimately leverage off of. There's a couple of mining universities in country, so highly skilled individuals coming out of university. Some of the best trained employees on the planet, because you've got Newmont, Anglo, Goldfield, Zijin, 4 of the top 10 largest gold producers there. So they train their employees incredibly well. For us at Newcore, as a exploration development stage company, we've been operating in this area where our project is, the Enchi project, and our the local community or town is Enchi, which is about 15,000 people. It sits about 15 kilometers away from our project. But small things like we always look to employ locals first, and that goes a long way. We work closely with the various schools in terms of supporting different programs that they've got. Different hospitals we work closely with. So as an exploration development stage company, we work closely with a lot of these different groups and organizations to support them. And probably one of the biggest things we get asked is, when are you going to be in production? Because ultimately these communities recognize that producing mines can be even more beneficial for jobs, for the local communities, for support services. So that would be one of the things that we get asked a lot is, when are you going to be in production? So we're obviously working closely with a lot of those different groups.
Well, Luke, I mean, it's been a fascinating conversation. I have one more question. How do you balance steady execution with the expectations that come with being a public company?
Managing expectations and laying out a very clear roadmap is something that I think is important from a public market perspective. Transparency is very important as well. So I would encourage anyone who's watching this who wants to learn more about Newcore, go to our website. We have a huge amount of information on there, all of our technical reports, as well as the various investor corporate presentations. We're also very active on social media, so lots of those different platforms where we put content out there which gives investors and others a lot of information about the project. And then we've laid out a clear plan, which is we've got a 45,000 meter drill program underway. We'll look to expand that well beyond 45,000 meters with an additional $10 million of warrant proceeds that are coming in between now and the end of this month. So call it February 27th is when those expire. So that's additional capital coming into the company. We've then highlighted that by end of H1, so call it June of this year, we'll have that PFS completed. So really kind of laying out clear milestones for the company, I think, is something that's important and something that we've always done and been able to ultimately achieve on. So that, I think, is an important aspect.
Absolutely. Well, perfect. Where can we find you? I mean, where are you trading? What's your website?
Yeah, so newcoregold.com is the website, but as I mentioned, we're also very active on LinkedIn, X, Facebook. We've got a YouTube channel which has a lot of content on there, and I'm sure this interview will get uploaded there at some point. So those would be areas to find us. We're always keen to engage with existing as well as potential investors, so we encourage people to reach out. There's email addresses on there. From a trading perspective, we trade on the TSXV as well as the OTC, and then we also have a listing in Germany. So those would be the three markets that we trade on.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sitting with me. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Again, that was Luke Alexander, Director, President, and CEO of Newcore Gold. Be sure to head over to their website, learn more about their story, and really take a deeper dive into all that. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk, your guest host right here at Assay TV. We will see you next time.